1. e4, Robert James Fischer opens with the king's pawn, seeking a direct and complex battle, a fitting choice against the legendary Estonian grandmaster, Paul Keres. 1. e5, Keres responds symmetrically, a man unafraid to enter the deep and treacherous waters of the open games against the world's most prepared player. 2. nf3, Fischer develops his knight to its most active and logical square, controlling the center and putting immediate pressure on the black e5 pawn, following the most principled path. 2. nc6, Keres develops his own knight, defending his central pawn and preparing to contest the key central squares. The game is proceeding along the most well-trodden theoretical paths. 3. bb5, the Ruy Lopez. Fischer chooses one of the oldest and most strategically profound openings, aiming to build slow, long-term positional pressure against the black position. 3. a6, the Morphy defense, black's most popular and reliable response. Keres immediately questions the white bishop, forcing it to decide its future in seizing a small amount of space on the queenside. For a4, Fischer maintains the pressure, retreating his bishop to a square where it continues to exert an annoying influence on the black knight and the entire queenside. 4. nf6, the main line. Keres develops his knight, challenges white's central e4 pawn, and prepares to castle his king to safety. 5. Fischer castles his king to safety with typical speed, connecting his rooks and preparing to launch operations in the center before black can fully consolidate. 5. b7, a solid and reliable developing move. Keres prepares for castling and creates a solid defensive setup, ready to meet white's long-term strategic pressure. 6. 1 rupee, the rook takes up its classic and most powerful post in the Ruy Lopez. From e1, it supports the e4 pawn and prepares to play a key role in the central struggle. 6. b5, the thematic queenside expansion. Keres kicks the white bishop and gains valuable space, a necessary step to create counterplay and untangle his pieces. 7. bb3, the bishop retreats to its best diagonal, from where it will continue to exert immense pressure on black's center and kingside for the rest of the game. 8. c3, the key move of the closed Ruy Lopez. Fischer prepares to build a formidable pawn center with d4, creating a solid foundation for his middle game plans. 10. bc2, the bishop retreats to its ideal square in the closed Lopez. From c2, it controls key diagonals, supports the center, and is safe from harassment. 10. c5, the thematic pawn break. With white's bishop repositioned, Keres strikes at the center, seeking to open lines for his pieces and seize the initiative. 11. d4, the central confrontation begins. Fischer builds his pawn center, seizing a space advantage and setting the stage for a classic Ruy Lopez battle. 11. nd7, the Keres defense. A subtle and profound knight maneuver that prepares to challenge white's center and maintains maximum flexibility for black's pieces. 12. dxc5, a surprising and aggressive choice from Fischer. Instead of maintaining the central tension, he opens the d-file, seeking a more dynamic and tactical struggle where his calculation can dominate. 12. dxc5, the necessary recapture. The position is now semi-open, and the game will revolve around control of the d-file and the activity of the minor pieces. 13. nbd2, the classic Ruy Lopez knight maneuver begins. Fischer prepares to reroute his knight to the kingside, usually via f1 and g3/e3, to support an attack. 13. qc7, a solid and useful developing move. Keres' queen puts pressure on the e5 pawn and prepares to support his pieces in the central struggle. 14. nf1, the knight continues its journey. Fischer is patiently and methodically improving his position, preparing his forces for the decisive middle game clash. 14. nb6, Keres' own knight finds a new home on b6, from where it controls key queenside squares and prepares to jump into a more active post. 15. n3, the knight arrives on its ideal square. From e3, it puts pressure on the center, ice key kingside squares, and is a major piece in Fischer's attacking plans. 15. rd8, Keres brings his rook to the open d-file, challenging white's control and adding another piece to the central battle. The tension is mounting. 16. QE2, a flexible and powerful queen move. Fischer reinforces his center, prepares to meet any threats, and keeps his options open for future attacking plans. 16. B6, Carré develops his final minor piece to an active square, completing his development and preparing to fight for control of the critical d5 square. 17. Nd5, a brilliant positional pawn sacrifice. Fischer rips open the position, sacrificing a pawn to activate his pieces, seize the initiative, and create a powerful attack. 17. Nxd5, Carré is practically forced to accept the sacrifice, as declining would leave him in a passive and strategically difficult position. He bravely enters the complications. 18. Exd5, the recapture opens the e-file and creates a dangerous passed pawn. Fischer's pieces are now poised to flood into the black position with devastating effect. 18. Bxd5, the recapture. Carré is a pawn up, but he must now withstand the full force of Fischer's initiative and the power of his beautifully coordinated pieces. 19. Nx5, the knight invades with crushing force. It lands on the powerful e5 outpost, from where it dominates the board and creates immediate threats against the black king. 19. Ra7, a clever but passive defensive move. Carré prepares to swing his rook to the defense of the kingside, a necessary measure against Fischer's impending assault. 20. Bf4, the bishop joins the attack with decisive effect. Fischer develops his final piece to a killer square, creating new threats and tightening the suffocating net around black's position. 20. Qb6, Carré's queen is forced into a more defensive role, trying to hold the crumbling position together. The initiative is now completely with Fischer. 21. Rad1, the final piece joins the party. Fischer brings his last rook to the central file, and his control over the position is now absolute and overwhelming. 21. G6, forced and ugly concession. Carré is forced to weaken the light squares around his king, creating new and fatal targets for Fischer's powerful pieces. 22. Ing4, the knight repositions to an even more dangerous square. From G4, it is ready to leap into F6 or H6, creating unstoppable threats against the fatally exposed black king. 22. Nc4, a desperate attempt to create some counterplay on the queenside, but it is far too slow. The game will be decided by the direct attack on the king. 23. Bh6, a deep and powerful move. Fischer's bishop lands on a devastating square, restricting the black king and preparing to sacrifice itself to rip open the last defensive barriers. 23. B6, Carré is forced to bring his bishop back for defense, a sad retreat for an active piece. He is completely on the defensive, with no counterplay. 24. Bb3, a brilliant and subtle bishop maneuver. Fischer repositions his bishop to attack the weak a-pawn, creating a new front and stretching black's overburdened defenses to the breaking point. 24. Qb8, the black queen is forced into an even more passive role, desperately trying to hold the queenside together against the new threat. 25. Rxd8+, Fischer initiates a series of exchanges, correctly judging that this will simplify the position into a clearly winning advantage for him. The execution is flawless. 25. Bxd8, the recapture is forced. Carré's position is still holding on, but the pressure is relentless, and he is being slowly but surely squeezed. 26. Bxc4, the decisive breakthrough. Fischer captures the knight, winning a key pawn and shattering black's queenside pawn structure completely. The game is now effectively over. 26. Bxc4, the recapture is forced, but it leaves black with a weak and isolated pawn on c4, a chronic weakness that will be a target for the rest of the game. 27. Qxc4, the queen captures the pawn, and the material is now equal, but white's positional advantage, with his active pieces and black's weak pawns, is completely overwhelming. 27. Eqd6, Carré tries to centralize his queen and create some counter threats, but Fischer has a stunning and decisive combination prepared. 28. Qa4, a brilliant queen swing. Fischer creates a deadly pin on the a-file and prepares to invade the black position with devastating effect. 28. Qe7, the only move to defend, but it is a sad necessity that leaves the black queen completely tied down and passive. 29. Nf6+, the thunderbolt. A stunning and brilliant knight sacrifice that completely shatters black's defensive coordination and forces a winning sequence. A true Fischer classic. 29. Kh8, the only legal move. The king is forced to a vulnerable square, where it is caught in a deadly mating net with no hope of escape. 30. Nd5, the quiet and deadly follow-up. This incredible move traps the black queen and leaves Carice with a choice between losing his queen or being checkmated. 30. Qd7, Carice is forced to abandon his queen to its fate, a desperate decision in a completely hopeless position, but the only way to prolong the game. 31. Qe4, Fischer calmly improves the position of his queen, maintaining the complete paralysis of the black pieces before delivering the final, crushing blow. 31. Qd6, Carice shuffles his queen, waiting for the inevitable. The psychological pressure of defending such a position against Fischer must have been immense. 32. Nf4, the knight repositions to an even more powerful square, from where it controls the entire board and prepares for the final, decisive assault. 32. Re7, Carice desperately tries to create a defensive line with his rook, but it is a futile gesture against the full might of Fischer's perfectly coordinated army. 33. Bg5, a clever and powerful bishop move that attacks the rook and forces another concession, further tightening the suffocating net around black's position. 33. Re8, the rook is forced to retreat, a clear sign of the complete bankruptcy of white's position. He is being outplayed on every front. 34. Bxd8, the simplest path to victory. Fischer trades his powerful bishop for the rook, simplifying into a completely winning endgame where his extra piece will be decisive. 34. Rxd8, the recapture. The smoke has cleared, and Fischer is a clean exchange up with a continuing attack. The rest is a matter of flawless technique. 35. Next 6, the knight captures the queen, and the material advantage is now completely overwhelming. The game is over, and the rest is a simple execution. 35. C6, the queen trade is forced, leading to a hopeless rook endgame for black. He is down the exchange with no compensation whatsoever. 36. C6, the recapture. The game now transitions into a rook and pawn endgame where Fischer's technical mastery will shine. 36. Fx6, this recapture leaves black with a shattered and weak pawn structure, another decisive factor that guarantees a win for white. 37. Rex6, the rook invades the 6th rank with decisive effect, attacking the weak pawns and completely paralyzing the black position. 37. Rd1+, a last, desperate check, but it only serves to activate the white king, bringing it closer to the center of the action. 38. Kh2, the king calmly steps up, ready to become a decisive piece in the final phase of the game. It is perfectly safe. 38. Rd2, the black rook tries to create some counterplay by attacking the weak pawns, but Fischer's threats are much more direct and dangerous. 39. Rb6, the rook swings over to the b-file, attacking another weak pawn and tying down black's pieces to passive defense. 39. Rxf2, Carice grabs a pawn, but it is a meaningless gesture in a completely lost position. He is just playing on, hoping for a miracle that will never come. 40. Rb7, a move of pure domination. The rook takes up an even more powerful post on the 7th rank, completely paralyzing black's forces and preparing the final push. 40. Rf6, the black rook is forced into a pitifully passive defensive role, a clear sign that white's control is absolute. 41. Kg3, the hero arrives. The white king begins its majestic and decisive march up the board. It will be the key piece in the final victory. Seeing the inevitable, Carice resigns.